Well, one thing Black Lives Matters has taught us is that ghetto stereotypes are not stereotypes. Hello everybody, Wild Bill for America here. And I see today we have a story of redemption. John Pounder, an angry black man who robbed a bank and went to prison, turned his life around. Well, actually I should say God turned his life around. Mr. Pounder now runs a Christian group called Hope for Prisoners. President Trump just gave the man a full pardon on national television. And the WorldNet Daily article mentioned that the FBI agent who arrested Mr. Pounder after the trial was taking him to prison, and he stopped at a store and bought Mr. Pounder a cup of coffee and a donut, and that had a huge impact on Pounder's life. He was not used to being treated like a man. Now that reminded me of my days as a U.S. Marshal. I occasionally had to pick up convicts at prison and transport them to a courthouse for whatever hearing they had. Many of them had been in prison for years, and one of my favorite things to do was when we were taking them back to the prison was to ask them, "Hey, what do you guys want for lunch?" Well, some of them just couldn't believe it, but we would treat them to KFC or pizza or McDonald's, whatever they wanted. Obviously, we couldn't go into a restaurant, but they ate a feast in the U.S. Marshal's van, and they loved it. You know, the Bible says that we are to visit those in prison. Well, my Christian U.S. Marshal friends and I, we did what we could. Well, a 20-year-old woman was declared dead at her Detroit, Michigan home, and then later she opened her eyes at the funeral home just as they were preparing to embalm her. Yeah, that would have turned her into a Democrat. Hillary Clinton, in my humble but correct opinion, the most evil woman in America, is calling for open violence after the presidential election. All the chaos that's going on, the riots, the brutal assaults on Trump supporters, Antifa and Black Lives Matters, all of it has the stench of Hillary Clinton on it. Remember, shortly after she lost the election to Donald Trump, she announced the resistance, and we have been seeing the resistance ever since. Well, now the most evil woman in America is publicly telling Biden not to concede under any circumstances. Did you get that? Even if he clearly loses the election, Hillary says he is to refuse to concede. That tells me that the Democrats are planning a new wave of violence and intimidation of the American people. I really only have one serious complaint about the Trump presidency, and that is that he should have immediately prosecuted Hillary Clinton for her long list of crimes. She should be sitting in a prison cell right now, today. The biggest mistake Trump has made is waiting until his re-election to begin prosecuting the Washington, D.C. criminals. And now, because Hillary Clinton is still walking free, she is planning to launch new violence against the American people in a desperate attempt to bring down President Trump before prosecution lands on her head. She's desperate. She is a criminal. She has no conscience. America is in for another 4-year-long hissy fit. Unless, of course, we stomp the living doggy-doo out of them and put a stop to their violence permanently. Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGeneva says that former CIA Director John Brennan appears to be a witness against James Comey. Oh, it'll be a great day when the dominoes begin to fall, as all these formerly untouchable government big shots start testifying each other, trying to avoid a long prison sentence. Well, believe it or not, Sodom and Gomorrah is in the news. How appropriate, considering the Democrat convention just took place. Apparently, researchers are positing the theory that an exploding meteor may have decimated the cities. The area, now known as Middle Gore, the research team found evidence of what they are calling a cosmic airburst event. Now, the cities appear to have been obliterated in an instant. The heat was so intense that the clay and rock melted into glass, meaning the temperature was between 8,000 and 12,000 degrees Celsius. That's over 21,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Not even Texas gets that. Now, why is this important? Because that is where God gave his opinion of homosexuality. And I guarantee you that opinion has not changed. flaming liberals want to teach LGBT in the public schools? Fine. Start with Sodom and Gomorrah. And I suggest you end with the great white throne judgment in Revelation chapter 20, where all those whose names are not found written in the book of life are thrown into the lake of fire for all of eternity. In fact, the great white throne judgment should be taught in every public school, college, and university in America. It would probably change the way millions live their lives. John Oliver, yet another nasty, hateful, liberal comedian, recently launched a terrible tirade against Danbury, Connecticut, even threatening to beat up the children of Danbury. I'm not sure what started the tiff, but Danbury fired back. The mayor went on television and announced that the city sewage plant is now named the John Oliver Sewage Plant, and the mayor added, "Because it's full of crap, just like you, John." Yes, the mayor is a Republican. Humor is a powerful tool when used properly, and I think we need to spend a whole lot more time laughing at liberals and their foolishness. Top of the list, black criminals who fight the police. And of course, all Democrat politicians are fair game. Now, this is unbelievable. New York University and Rice University are giving in to demands from black students to bring back segregation. Apparently, they need spaces where they can be, are you ready for this? Spaces where they can be protected from other races. They demand that black students have all black professors. New York University, liberal wimps, say they are quickly moving on the problem and will have the demands met by next fall. Well, I have a better idea. Campus policy prohibits overt acts of racism. Perhaps New York University should simply expel every black student who signed those stupid petitions. That would be the right thing to do. That would be the proper thing to do. But as Dennis Prager puts it, universities are now the stupidest places in America. So watch for racism to be openly supported by left-wing universities. Seriously, folks, there is no white racism crisis in the USA, but there is a huge black racism crisis, and it is getting worse under the poisonous influence of liberalism. We're already seeing the black KKK and their race-based terrorism, just like the KKK of the 1800s. The Democrats are launching the new KKK, the black version, just like they did the old KKK. All right, let's finish up with the verse of the day. You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Isaiah 26:3. Thanks for watching, and America, bless God again.